All your banter belong to us. We set us at .bomb. Make your time. And welcome to the PrinnyCast Episode 7.
For great justice, dude. I think that cat. How are you guys doing? I'm Chris, and these are my co-hosts.
I'm Mike.
Grover.
Hello.
And it's October 20th, 2012. Before we get started, I want to give out thanks to longplays.org for a lot of their help in getting us some extra video for... there's certain games I just cannot get video to. And a little shout out to galaxypugs.com. You can also find us on Twitter at PrinnyCast, and our email is prinnycast@gmail.com. And don't forget that down there in the description is easy links for all the different parts of our show. So... what have you guys been playing this week?
Well, I have been playing Skyrim all week long. Nothing else.
When you get on a game, you stick with the game for a while, don't you?
Oh yes, I go crazy with the game. I'm trying to get all the achievements.
For me, it's pretty much been just World of Warcraft. I did play a little bit more of New Super Mario Bros. 2.
Well, I would shake my finger at you guys for not playing a whole lot this week, but I haven't either. I've had like 3 sessions of Counter-Strike and no Minecraft. I mean, aside from getting video for this week's show, the only thing that I've played that actually could be considered I sat down and played was a little bit of SimCity. Last week when I was recording the footage for the show, I kind of thought, I'd like to play that old Super Nintendo SimCity again. And I used the cheat code so I could just sit down and play it for like a couple hours instead of spending the whole day with it. But I cannot remember how to turn the disasters off, and so I was thinking that on easy mode there wasn't a lot of disasters, if any, and lo and behold, I'm in the middle of making my donut city, and here comes Bowser stomping through, and I've got like 3 fire departments strewn throughout the whole city, so it was pretty much a disaster area in a short amount of time. So, that was a short-lived. So on to some game news. We'll see where it goes. There's a big Diablo 3 patch, the 1.0.5 patch, that has adjustable monster power setting that lets you upgrade monster health and damage output in exchange for the greater magic find that's even above the old caps. And also adjust the gold drops and the XP, and it's supposed to be an offsetter for all the people that were complaining about how easy they made the game because of the nightmare levels was apparently really unbalanced. There came to a point that if you did not have certain great gear, that you could not continue any further regardless of what your level was.
Mm-hmm.
And Skyrim's getting a patch too.
Skyrim?
And it's mostly to set up for the new DLC called Dragonborn, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh yes.
It's kind of secretive this time. We don't know too much about it, but you mentioned something about rideable
That's
mounts.
right. That it seems that you'll be able to fly dragons around, which seems completely over the top and hilarious. But hey, whatever.
Now, this is one of the first times I think I've heard of this. It is a cross-advertisement for 2 completely different games. Far Cry 3 is officially releasing a Minecraft texture pack that will feature textures from Far Cry 3 and even characters' designs in the Minecraft style. It's different. It's new. It's a mod made by a professional company for somebody else's game as an advertisement for their own game. I think it's kind of a genius idea in a way.
Yeah, the popularity of Minecraft.
Who's getting their Halloween update on the 24th, which is just a few days after this uploads.
I haven't been playing Minecraft specifically, so I won't be burned out when I go and start playing the Halloween pack.
Well, thankfully, next week's show is going to be on spooky games, so maybe we can squeeze a little Minecraft section in there and how we feel about the new update, because I'm sure I'm going to be playing it. I know you're going to be playing it, Grower.
Mm-hmm.
Mike's going to be busy with WoW. And old becoming new again, Sega's announced that from their AM2 division that made all of those wonderful arcade games that pretty much made Sega great in the 90s, is having a Model 2 collection coming to Xbox Live and PlayStation Network. So you're getting arcade-perfect versions of Virtua Fighter 2, Fighting Vipers, Virtua Striker, Virtual On, which I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that's cheering for that, and a return of Sonic the Fighters, which it seems like it was on one of the Sonic collections, but I don't think it's ever been released outside of that to a console before. And there's supposed to be more of these collections to come, so...
Will it come out on Steam eventually?
Doubtful. Then again, Sonic Generations came out for it too, didn't it?
Mm-hmm.
So, you never know, it might actually happen. And also in the rumor news, Criterion intends on making a new Burnout game in the foreseeable future, but it teased that its more initial interest is in taking the helm of Electronic Arts' Road Rash series.
I loved Burnout. That's probably my favorite racing game.
It was very enjoyable.
Well, I like it probably for the same reason that the N64 F-Zero was my favorite, and that's because you can just wreck every car. It's like, oh, you think you're going to get in first? Not anymore.
So, Kickstarter game Haunts, which was kind of a wandering around a haunted mansion, got over its asking budget, but the game reached its beta completion, and its two programmers that were working on it quit. One worked for Google and had to go back to work, and the other one just plain quit for reasons that haven't been specified so far. But that's left nobody to bug test or smooth over the last-minute details of the game, so the creators, with apparently no programmers left in the house, and not bothering to find new programmers, which is kind of strange, but I guess with the money gone, it would have to be on their own dime again. They've already spent like $40,000. They've mothballed the game. They've killed it. And
Wow.
It's apparently an unfortunate situation that's been happening so often that Kickstarter is actually having to change its rules so the future gaming projects don't end up like this so much. They have to have actual working demos before, something to show people that, hey, this is where we're at now, we need the rest of the money to finish it. And no more concept works. And that's just among many other rules that they're working with right now because there's a lot of people upset that here they've funded this project, and the project is saying, well, what to do? Sorry, wasted money.
Mm-hmm. One of the projects was, I remember, for some kind of watch, and I think got $4 million, and it just disappeared. And one of the rules for Kickstarter is they warn you up front that this can happen, and they're in no way responsible. You're on your own if this happens.
But the problem is it's still making Kickstarter look bad because of these situations, and so I can see why they have to change up the rules to make it harder for people to engage in Kickstarter programs, but at the same time, there's a lot of people that are just going to stop funding these things if they keep taking money like this.
Yeah.
Now, in this particular case, I don't think there was anything particularly illegal here. These guys did use the money specifically for their game. They paid their programmers. It wasn't a particularly large amount either. It was like $25,000. And the money run out, and they have apparently no means of continuing the game. But at this point, it's really tragic, because it sounds like the game is practically completed. Just needs that one little last push.
I'd also like to remind you that I saw on the Kickstarter page for Haunt that if you did pledge to Haunt and you want your money back now, the creator is giving you your money back out of pocket. So if you want it, get it.
Looks like he would use that out-of-pocket money to hire that broker.
to make the game.
At least he's trying to make good. But it's not the only time that a company's been in trouble recently. Starhawk developer Lightbox laid off half of their staff. And the move is largely in part as they downshift to focus on iOS games instead of the big blockbuster titles they have been working for, because they've been working for Sony. They say they're going to keep their ties with Sony despite the fact that their contract with them pretty much over. And that brings us to a lot of courtroom drama. An earlier episode, I mentioned the Arma 3 devs who were imprisoned on charges of espionage in Greece. They're still there, and they're likely going to be there for even longer because there's labor strikes in the country due to the failing economic situation.
No.
These poor guys are going to be stuck there for a while, and there doesn't seem to be anything that they've done that really warrants this whole situation. They did not take any pictures of anything that wasn't something freely available on the internet anyway. So,
yeah.
And then the Black Eyed Peas. I don't know if you guys have heard about this, but are being
I've heard about this.
for $1 million over a breach of contract with Ubisoft. The group had a deal with them that Ubisoft basically has full rights to the group's names and likenesses, and I think a large percentage of their songs since mid-2011. The contract included the group would notify them within 10 business days of approval for any consideration of any project that came down the pipeline. Well, there's been a recent one. I believe it was worked for one of the iOS, and Black Eyed Peas did not respond at all, even after the 10-day deadline. So here's this $1 million breach of contract going on because Ubisoft has spent several $100,000 getting this game together, and they're stuck because they can't progress further without their approval.
It seems ignorant, not Ubisoft's side, that all these guys had to do was look at the contract and sign it, or give a thumbs up or something, and said nothing.
If they didn't like it, then they should have said at least that much and say, hey, can we change this or that?
I mean, they have to have a spokesperson that works with Ubisoft.
But they are their own company, which is a change from a lot of different other bands who works through publishing labels or even an agent. These guys basically run their own agency, so that makes this situation a little bit worse.
Yeah.
Speaking of agencies, agencies. Actor Jerry Lambert, who played the character Kevin Butler for a fictional vice president at Sony in a series of over 30 commercials, as well as other promotion materials like a Twitter account and a Facebook account. He's even been given a character in the upcoming Little Big Planet kart racer. But mere days after the contract between Sony and Lambert's agency ended, he appeared in that Bridgestone tire commercial that involved a free Wii for customers who bought a set of tires. And Sony claims the trademark of the Kevin Butler character, and because the trademark also includes the appearance of Jerry Lambert, the actor's relation to it in promoting a Wii was damaging to Sony's image. Case like this rarely happens, but so it'll be very interesting where this goes as far as trademarking somebody's, a real-life person's appearance and what they can and cannot do in future work.
Does everybody remember the Johnny Cage character?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking as soon as I heard that.
If I'm not mistaken, Johnny Cage was in the original Mortal Kombat was actually supposed to be played by an actor. I cannot remember who it was at the time.
I don't think you can trademark a person. That's just silly.
You can. George Lucas did with the entire cast of Star Wars. But in less of a courtroom drama and more of a kind of scratching your head drama, Capcom and Konami has blocked Street Fighter, Castlevania, and Metal Gear Solid 3 from joining a list on the Greatest Video Game Music 2 album to be released in just a few weeks. The London Philharmonic Orchestra was doing this entire collection of great music from video games for the last several decades. And especially, it's weird because of a ton of Nintendo and Square tracks are featured on it. And these are two companies that get kind of antsy about licensing and copyrights. But despite the loss of the tracks, the album will still be launched on November 6th as scheduled.
I mostly pay attention to the Mega Man soundtracks, even though I can't get them.
Well, that's an interesting segue. There's a Mega Man 3 album from Hyde209, who's recently made his entire work available for free. I'll link the link. He's kind of a small-time remixer, and he's claiming that this is probably his best work. On the other side of the spectrum, there's Just Dance 4 is apparently getting a Gangnam Style as DLC, complete with a few movesets from the famous video.
Oh, man.
I kind of saw this coming. So yes, there was that.
There's a new game being made that is on Kickstarter, and Wing Commander creator Chris Roberts is making a new game called Star Citizen and wants you to help funding for the game. They estimate they'll need at least $2 million and have already received more than half of that in the first week through pledges and all that stuff. Now they've started a $500,000 Kickstarter as well. And from what I saw last night, that's probably already reached its goal. This is one of those space games, and I haven't seen one of those games in a while. According to Roberts, the game will fuse the elements of his previous games with Wing Commander and Freelancer into a sophisticated storyline set in a persistent online universe, which means, of course, it's going to be MMO probably. They also plan to have support for the Oculus Rift, which is a virtual reality headset that is planned to be released in December. This is also a Kickstarter thing, the Oculus Rift. So I'm almost terrified that you got Kickstarters saying that they'll use another Kickstarter, and we mentioned all that vaporware earlier. Kickstarter, It almost seems terrifying, but you don't have to worry about that from Star Citizen. The game engine is complete, and the game looks mind-blowing from what I saw.
The trailers that I've seen so far are rather impressive, and Chris Roberts does know his stuff. I'm not a big fan of his movie. Still, I think there's a lot of promise there. Freelancers especially. I've got a couple of friends who are really big Freelancer fans.
Honestly, I didn't like either of his games, but the game just looks mind-blowing.
There's been a resurgence of why are these genres being forgotten, and I think this is one of those genres that needs a little boost and say, hey, we're still here, and this is probably the perfect place to actually do that.
It's good to see some of these recently unused genres coming back, also known as synthetic.
And the adventure games, there was a big resurgence of those in recent years. I don't think they've really taken off, but they're still here, and I think The Walking Dead is really making an impact on that market because it's getting quite the following.
Zombies everywhere.
It's a whole new way of doing adventure games, and it's kind of combining elements from a lot of BioWare's multiple conversation branching system along with the often hated QuickTime events, but it does it in such a way that people are really getting a kick out of it, along with the old point-and-click style. There's a little bit of that still in it too. So when it's done well, I think all of the elements can work.